Good morning and welcome to today's video from Yoker Evangelical Church. It's Monday the 17th of May today, and in our Bible reading plan this morning we read from Isaiah chapter 16 and 1 Peter chapter 4. I want to take a look at just one verse from 1 Peter chapter 4. Read it with me, verse 7 if you have a Bible. The end of all things is near. Therefore, be alert and of sober mind so that you may pray. I'll read that again. The end of all things is near. Therefore, be alert and of sober mind, so that you may pray. Peter, the author of this letter, begins with a sweeping statement that has implications for all of life. The end of all things is near. In that he is clear that time will not keep on going on forever and ever. That God has a final plan. That life as we experience it now, the clock is on, the timer has been set, and the end will inevitably come. And that there is this countdown coming. It feels a little bit like getting out of lockdown. We don't know exactly when it will be, but we know with some certainty that it is coming. Now this is even more certain than the end of lockdown, because God has promised this, that the end of all things is near. We know it's coming. Now, I should be clear, this is not a guide to a date. We should not read this and start to think, well, maybe we can pick up on the clues, maybe we can tell exactly when. Guessing dates is going to be foolish. Peter wrote this sometime in the 1st century AD, and so Christians have been looking at these words for 1900 years, and it has been helpful to each one of them. We are not the first people to read this, and so the letter is not saying you should expect it sometime this year. It is trying to inform an attitude towards the end. So for all the time that Christians have been reading this, for centuries, they have had to know that the end is near, maybe not within their lifetimes, but it is near, it is coming, and so how are they to act in response to it? You see, this matters because what we do at the end will show where our priorities were all along. You sometimes see in disaster movies when the asteroid is on its way to Earth, or the huge natural disaster or the nuclear war is on its way, people do the thing that mattered to them all along. The businessman who's never seemed to have time for his family, suddenly when the end is near, goes home to see his kids. Sometimes people who have spent all their lives working suddenly go off and travel because what they really cared about was travel. What we do at the end will show where our priorities lay all along. And so Peter is trying to inform Christians, what should your priorities be? Knowing that the end is at hand, it is coming, what should you be doing? And the whole of verses 7 to 11 help us to see what that is. I would encourage you to read them, spend time praying about them, because it shows where Christians' priorities should be. And so he tells us to invest in prayer, in loving one another, in offering hospitality, and in serving others. There might be some surprises in there, things that you perhaps haven't thought of as very important, that Peter thinks, when the end is coming, you need to do this. I want to focus though just on that first one, prayer. Why does Peter specify that? The end of all things is near. Therefore, be alert and of sober mind, so that you may pray. What is it about prayer that so pushes Peter towards that upon the news that the world is ending? Well, I think it is that there is nothing that we can do ourselves in light of that news. The only way that we will be able to stand at the end is if we are depending on God. And the way which we practically depend on Him day by day is by praying. Peter knows that the event is coming where God will judge the world, and we have no chance of standing if we're doing it ourselves. So what needs to be our top priority? The thing that we hold closest to us? It is that we are practically depending on Him by praying, by making sure that we have clear minds to pray, that we are able to focus. Peter has this focus on prayer because it is so important in light of what is to come. I hope that this is helpful, that it encourages you to pray and to read those verses again, to look at what Peter thinks our priorities should be. And I hope you have a great day today. God bless.